Hello and welcome to 1874, the podcast. We're here on Monday, as we always are. Myself, Dan Bardell, and Gregg Evans from The Athletic to discuss Liverpool 2, Aston Villa 0, and just kind of discuss where Villa are at the moment. Going to be honest, I'm going to try and be positive because I can't take any more negativity. I haven't really been on social media since the game because I thought it was a joke. So I'm going to try and get some positives and try and look at how Villa are going to get back on track after the international break. This show is sponsored by NordVPN. You'll hear a little bit more about them later in the show. Check all the links in the description or the jazz in the description, and NordVPN could help you if they can. They do, and that also helps us as well. Gregg, how are you?
I'm very good, thanks, Dan. Although I'm looking at you thinking, why are you so orange compared to me?
I think it's the light.
You got one of these supporting lights that's
got a light.
Yeah,
I've got a light, yeah, and it's I've got to be honest, it does look a strange shade. I think our last podcast I must have done it at night, and then I've left it on the same setting. Not
I was thinking, am I looking ill or something? Because like I just
arguably I look more
very white compared to you. But anyway, no. Other than that, I'm all good, thanks. Yeah. Yeah. Busy week last week. Gonna be quite a busy week this week, even though it's international break. And yeah, not great for Villa, was it? Over the week?
No. I actually thought they played quite well. I thought it was more encouraging than the past couple of performances, but a little bit toothless up front, and we're just always going to give teams goals at the back at the moment, as well as the last two games that have transpired. That's exactly what happened. You were at the game, Gregg. You were actually covering Liverpool, but obviously for the purpose of today, you're gonna be covering Villa and talk about Villa. First off, hats off to Liverpool. You know, they're the only team in the league at the moment that are absolutely flying, I would say, and I'm going to look at that as a positive for Villa. I'm not bracketing Villa in with Arsenal, with Manchester City in terms of, we're going to be competing with the title with those two teams. But what I would say at the moment is Villa aren't the only team suffering in the Premier League. It's quite built up in terms of second to 10th, I would say, at the moment in the Premier League as well. So Villa aren't too far away from, where we want to be in and around third and fourth, because although we're on a bad run, many other teams are a bit stodgy at the moment as well.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And I think what was a relatively kind start to the season for Villa in terms of the fixtures has now evened itself out a little bit, because Villa have got through some of the tougher games now, albeit not really picking up enough points from those games, having lost to Tottenham and now Liverpool. So the fixtures that arrive after the international break are going to give Villa an opportunity to get back up the league, I think, and I will start to become a little bit concerned if the results don't pick up over the next few weeks after the international break, because then you might start to look and think, is there a bigger problem here? But they started the season very well, fallen off a little bit now. It's kind of evened itself out a little bit, maybe a couple of points behind where they might have hoped they would have been at this stage. It feels like the Premier League in general is just getting a bit stronger. I think the teams that are trying to break up the establishment, as I think it was a Brighton player who referred to that term. Matt O'Reilly, was it? Yeah, he said that, didn't he? Those type of teams, your Brightons, Newcastle, Fulham, for me, seem to be just getting a bit stronger. So I've enjoyed watching quite a few of those this year, and they're all sort of very, very close in the league. So Villa haven't lost too much. They've got a little bit of making up to do. But Liverpool are literally the only team in the league where nothing's really gone wrong for them this season, and inevitably will at some point. They'll probably lose a couple of games somewhere along the line, but they're in a great position now to go on and what they hope will be to win the title.
Yeah, look, Villa lost at Anfield last season quite heavily. Probably a similar type of game in some ways, actually. I actually think Villa attacked a little bit better in this game than they did in that 3-0 reverse last season. They've lost to Spurs. Obviously, they won there last season, but, going away to a stereotypical top six team, you can lose. And, it wasn't nice the way we got undone and ended up getting hammered. But, away at Spurs, although obviously they lost yesterday to Ipswich, you can lose at those grounds. And the other defeat was right at the start of the season to Arsenal, when Arsenal were really, really strong and carried on their momentum from the start of the season. And Villa played well in that game. Villa could have got something from that game quite easily. I don't necessarily see those defeats as being the problem. I think it's when you've gone to Ipswich when they're in a bad moment, they haven't won a game and you've given away a late goal and you've drawn 2-2. Drawing 0-0 against Manchester United at home when they're really, really poor. Ten Hag's on his way out and you don't do anything and you muster up a 0-0. Then the Bournemouth game, again, where I think Villa played well, but they concede with the last touch of the ball of the game. I don't think the defeats at the moment are the problems. I think Villa look back at those 3 drawn games that I've mentioned. Even if you'd have maybe won 1 or 2 of those, you're in a much healthier position and you go into this international break thinking Villa are well set here. But as it transpires, they're on a little bit of a bad run. They didn't win those games. They've now lost a couple in a row in the Premier League, which doesn't normally happen and hasn't. I don't think it's ever happened, in fact, since Emery's first kind of half a season. So things, I think, almost look worse than they are because of the way because of the Premier. Things look worse than they are, but I don't think they are that bad because I think the rest of the Premier League is struggling as well. Not sure I've confused myself when I'm talking.
Yeah, I think I know what you mean.
On board what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, when Manchester City are struggling and losing 4 games in a row, albeit only 2 in the Premier League, it just gives the rest of the division a bit of hope. And
it's the same for Villa's 2 in the Premier League, isn't it?
Yeah, the same thing, isn't it? 1 in the Champions League, 1 exactly the same run of results. But when you look at Manchester City, the team that have won the title and have picked up the most amount of points over the last 5 seasons, it gives so many other teams hope and just shows that defeats can happen and Villa are in a bad spell at the moment, but it's probably the first time actually under Emery that you're looking at it thinking a break might actually be good for this team now, just to reset, refresh, go off and get some different training days with their international teams, and for the players that have remained at the club to have a few days off and just kind of switch off. Because when Villa return, the fixtures the fixture list just looks absolutely ridiculous, doesn't it? Going from the back end of November up until the start of January, so many games, and there won't be any time for negativity to fester at that point, because it will literally be 3 games a week every week up until the start of the new year. So they'll have to start getting it right at some point. Of course they do, and that, because they're losing games, we're looking at it all across the board and thinking, what's going on? The forwards don't quite look at it. The defence are full of errors. The set pieces aren't quite as in tune as they used to be. Emery's perhaps making decisions that you wouldn't expect him to, and now he's reverting back to his responses in press conferences where he's saying we're still a team that are trying to catch up with the other teams. We're still behind the Chelseas and the Arsenals and the Manchester Cities and the Liverpools, and you're back to that stage again. So there's a bit of work to be done.
Yeah, I think you're right. Definitely the reset, the international break, that comes at a really good time for Villa. And then I think you come back, you've got 2 home games. You've got a big game in the Premier League against Crystal Palace. And then a few days later on Wednesday, I think is, Juventus at home, which would be a nice change of pace for Villa, going back to Villa Park, having a big Champions League, and the atmosphere obviously will be incredible for Villa taking on a team like Juventus. They're kind of just I almost wanted to see a performance at the weekend. And I think to an extent, I got that. But I definitely think performance is secondary in the first game back against Palace. You've just got to win that game now. You just need to see something and get through that game, win that game. Maybe that gives you a little bit of confidence. And then you've got another big game at Villa Park in the Champions League. And then you go into the Chelsea, I think it is after that, away that weekend. You maybe go into that feeling a little bit better about ourselves, because there's definitely a lack of confidence in that team at the moment, isn't there, Greg? Not too many times under Emery over the years have we looked toothless up front. But I think we do look toothless up front at the moment. Don't really ever look like we're going to score. Even if we create an opening or an opportunity, you don't back us to score at the moment. Unlucky from a couple of set pieces. Kelleher's had a couple of really good saves there, and he's a very good goalkeeper and has done what he's there to do for Liverpool and kept them ahead at that point. But you mentioned, defensively, we look like we'll concede goals, look like we'll make a mistake, and we'll come on to that. But that happened. But the more alarming thing for me is, we conceded goals last season. We didn't keep loads of clean sheets last season, but we were always looking like we were going to score. The distances seem wrong between the players at the moment. Whenever a player gets the ball, I feel like the distances are completely wrong, and people are isolated. We're not managing to create clear-cut openings like we have done previously under Unai Emery. Bruges and Liverpool, we just haven't looked like scoring, Greg.
No, the attacking players are out of form all at the same time, which is
Yeah,
making it so difficult for Villa. We know that Holly Watkins he's a player that goes through spells where he scores lots of goals in games, and then we'll go through a period where he doesn't score in a month. He's not concerned. He will get goals. He
I
will
agree.
continue to get.
Sorry to cut across you, Greg. I
Yeah.
agree with what you're saying, but would you say that last season, just playing devil's advocate, when he was in this run of form, he was still getting assists?
Mm. Well, yeah, which is what I'm coming on to the fact
Sorry.
that it's fine. The fact that all the attacking players are out of form are not in good form at the moment. Bailey doesn't look fit to me. Jacob wrote a detailed article on him in the
Yeah,
Athletic
read it.
this morning. Go and have a read of that, guys. If you haven't, it will explain where he's at the moment. Because for me, he was, and somebody's got to get this tag. He was probably the worst player on the pitch, I thought, on Saturday. Certainly for Villa, I thought he struggled.
I find it hard to single anyone out. I think you just
Just,
look at the
just
attacking
yeah,
area
just
in general; they're all struggling.
think,
Duran came on and was rubbish as well. Like they're all rubbish
yeah,
at the moment.
yeah. And then Philogene came on, and there was I think there was a 70-yard run from Luis Diaz, and he just took the ball off him. And you just think that's you want your wingers to be doing just a little bit better than that. And Morgan Rogers looks like he's played too many games in a short space of time. I think he played more minutes this year by September than any other year, in his life. So shows that he's played a lot of minutes, and Villa will be frustrated with him going away again for under 21 duty. So yeah, we talked at the start of the season about Villa having so many options, but when players are out of form up front and in the attacking positions, that it doesn't feel like there's much to turn on. And without going over the topics that we've already discussed in previous weeks, we both agree that Diaby would be a stronger option than Philogene at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
There is not that much to turn to really in reserve, and the amount of times that I've seen Ramsey play really well for 45 minutes and then go off with an injury, it's so frustrating because he was the main threat. He was the one that was causing Trent Alexander-Arnold all the problems. His direct running was causing Liverpool issues. They couldn't quite work out where he was going. They couldn't get the ball off him at some points, and I feel like Villa missed him in the second half in some respects, but it just seems so stop-start and disrupted everything at the moment. And yeah, Duran comes on for the third game in a row and does nothing. So it's not working up front for Villa at the moment. They're probably, you ask across the board, managers or players in the Premier League, who are the best team in transition. Most people would have said Aston Villa. At the start of October. Villa have lost a lot of what's good about them in the last few weeks, and I think they just need a bit of a reset.
Yeah, I think I love Jacob Ramsey. I think he's such a good player. I think the half a season under Emery, I thought he was absolutely brilliant. I thought he was a huge reason why Villa got seventh. That partnership he had with Moreno down the left-hand side was absolutely brilliant for Villa and a source of a lot of productivity and a lot of goals. It is becoming a problem, his injuries. There's no other way of looking at it now. He had a bad injury at the start of last season, then kept breaking down. And, at the end of the season, he was completely gone and not available for selection. But we didn't really see the real Jacob Ramsey through the entire 38-game Premier League campaign last season, I would say. You look forward to this season, the first game, he comes on, he's involved in the goal at West Ham, John Duran's goal at West Ham. I think he might have got an assist, actually. But in that game, he scores our first Champions League goal against Young Boys, and you think, yes, he's back.
Yeah.
He's going to kick on. He's such an important player. The way he's so unique, the way he carries the ball. Can he dovetail with Rogers, kind of, because they're both playing that number 10 position, and then that's going to really, really help Watkins. But he can't stay fit, and it is becoming a huge issue for Villa now, because you need reliability across your squad. That you're going to rely on people who can come in and play a lot of games and play consistently every game. Every time Ramsey gets a run of games now, he goes down with an injury, Greg.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be more frustrating for him than anybody else. But yeah, it's becoming an issue because Villa need him. he's one of the best attacking players, and Steven Gerrard knew that when he was manager, and Unai Emery knows that. So, excuse me. So yeah, it's frustrating. Coupled with the fact that Rogers just looks a little bit tired. He doesn't look quite himself. I feel like he should have done better. I think with that chance that he had very early in the first half, makes it perhaps a different game than if he scores that. Watkins just now, again, a couple of games where it hasn't quite worked for him. I'll say that I don't think it will ever really affect him anymore because he's so used to doing this now, and he knows that he's going to get a goal, and he knows how much the managers give him belief to show him how much he trusts him. So I always think that Villa will get it back. It's unknown territory really for us here talking about this, because Villa have never lost 4 games under Unai Emery, so we've never had to discuss this run of form, and maybe we should have been expecting it a little bit this season because of the Champions League, and Villa were always going to be coming up against tougher opposition this year, so the run of fixtures were always going to be more difficult, at some stage. And look, let's get it right. Villa have played Tottenham, who are a decent team, Liverpool, who are a decent team. The one real problem was the Bruges result. You can sometimes accept Premier League defeats to the real top teams or teams that are going to be in and around you, but it's when they're backed up together that it starts to become a worry.
Yeah, David Stiles has said here, and David seems to watch every single one we do live, so thank you very much, David, for all the support that you give the channel. He says, is it time for Maatsen to get a run in the team? Could add a bit of something into our team that we're missing, pace/decisive running. And he caveats that by saying, and I love Luca Dean. I agree, Luca Dean's probably one of Villa's most consistent players at the moment, and it would be very harsh to take him out of the team in the Premier League. But what I will say is, if you haven't got Ramsey down that left-hand side and you've got John McGinn down that left-hand side, which is how Villa played in the second half, the right-hand side we've discussed, that's the problem at the moment for Villa. It's not working there, and I think they're desperate for cash back, in all honesty, down that side as well. But that's probably a story for a different day. But when you've got the right-hand side that's toiling a little bit, attacking generally is toiling a little bit, the left-hand side then becomes crucial. And as I mentioned earlier, under Emery, left-hand side, I think if you were to look at the stats over Emery's 2 years, I reckon that side has been the major source of goals. When you think of Moreno and Ramsey in the first season, think of all the assists Luca Dean's got, Rodgers last season. I think that's been a source of a lot of goals for Villa. If you've got Dean and you've got McGinn, I don't think that works because there's no runner there down the left-hand side. They're both going to be more stand and deliver. I think when you've got Luca Dean and Ramsey, I think that works. But I think if Ramsey's not there and you've got John McGinn, I think you need Maatsen on the outside of him. And it's really, really harsh on Luca Dean. But I think we're lacking players that are kind of confident carrying the ball at the moment. And Maatsen down that left-hand side isn't lacking confidence carrying the ball. And I think he gets Villa up the pitch, which has been a problem in recent games. So unfortunately, as much as I love what Luca Dean has done, if Ramsey's not there, I think you probably have to start playing Maatsen.
Or a more extreme version, he's playing both of them. That we haven't seen Villa do that.
But Maatsen perhaps playing the Bailey role, which
I mean, look, he wasn't
around, but that might work.
Yeah. He wasn't signed to be an attacker, but he was signed to provide competition down the left. And if that means playing advanced just during a week or a few games, just to see where he's at, those. If you look through and scrutinise his performances at Borussia Dortmund, the most impressive parts of his game were when he was attacking. So. I don't know if they've worked on it. Don't know if they've tried it, in training or anything. But I think that could be an option, and it'd be quite exciting. I think I'd like to see that. If Ramsey's not available, I do think John McGinn can carry the ball well. I just think he's not playing as well. Though, is it? He's not playing as well as he has been. But perhaps with the right overlapping fullback, it might work. And look, Dini's best part of his game really is his delivery, and his delivery hasn't been great in the last few weeks.
I mean, I'm not digging out John McGinn or Luca Dean. I love both. I've got John McGinn on the back of my home shirt. I absolutely love the guy. I just think it's not clicking at the moment. So we've got to try and look at what we can do to make it click. And to me, Maatsen at left back will help us with some of the things that we're struggling with at the moment. I think after the international break, we've heard today that Kamara and Ramsey have both got hamstring injuries, so they may not be back after the international break. To me, you're then looking at, is Barkley's fit again? You pair Barkley and Onana, you put Tielemans as a 10, and maybe just try Rodgers and Maatsen down that left-hand side, because I think Rodgers is running into cul-de-sacs centrally at the moment. He's running out of gas, and when it comes to making the final pass, he's not quite getting it right as much as I would like him to at the moment. Perhaps that's something that can change after the international break against Palace. I guess if we look at the game itself, Greg, in that first half, the goal Villa have conceded is a really, really poor goal. Now, I've got no issues really with the setup, because I bet if you look at Villa's attacking set pieces over the last year or so, I bet they've always not had a man back
No, they haven't.
If a team like Liverpool did brings everyone back, Villa will always have everyone forward. That's just what we do, and that's a trend. I think Brentford started it, that we've seen more and more in the Premier League. We get caught out. Like, there's no doubt about it. Again, Liverpool are a brilliant transitional side, and they exploited Villa from that set play, got themselves out, and got themselves a goal on another day. Leon Bailey may well get sent off, and it's an even harder day for Villa. 9 times out of 10, I'm pretty sure Darwin Núñez skies that over the bar, but on this occasion, he decided against Villa to put it in the back of the net. So I haven't got a massive problem with that goal. As bad as it looks, it's just one of those things. The problem I have with it is that it nearly happened again. Like, you've just got done. Sometimes, you've got your instructions, but I think as a footballer, you can have a bit of nous and have in your head, that didn't work last time. Maybe I'll just take myself back 10, 15 yards. But they didn't. And it was very nearly 2-0, Greg.
Yeah, I mean, the setup in attacking set pieces has been like that for 2.5 years. They've just been so good at attacking set pieces and so well organised that no team has been able to exploit them like that, like Liverpool did. That move to that cross to the front post, he's such a popular one. I remember McGinn scoring, didn't he, at Chelsea? Was it last year? From
better memory than me.
Yeah, Chelsea. I think McGinn scored from Chelsea. From I mean, it's almost identical. Have a look at the McGinn goal. I'm sure it was at Chelsea. And
we won 1-0 at Chelsea. Watkins scored. I don't think it was that game.
Was it 2 years ago at Chelsea? God, when am I thinking?
You talk about the one when McGinn took
McGinn
yards.
rips it from outside of the box. Yeah,
it was year before, season before.
Yeah, apologies. Yeah, all the games get muddled up into one. So, blimey, was that 2 years ago? Wow, that shows how quick time is. But anyway, have a look at that goal. McGinn scores from outside the box, but it was a corner to the front post, and somebody flicked it on, and then it was almost exactly the same as Liverpool Day. Anyway, but anyway, look, Villa have been trying that for couple of years, as you pointed out just then. It's a risk or reward situation, isn't it? Villa like to get players forward because they like to try and score goals from set pieces, and they have done a lot for the last couple of years. So Liverpool exposed them. The first one, you could look at it a couple of reasons. The front post player didn't win the ball strongly enough. The guy who was on the edge of the area, who I forgot, was it by Diaz and Salah out muscled him to get the first knock. I think it was Dean, yeah.
And then Bailey were the furthest back for Villa, but they were still very far forward.
And then look, the brilliant pass from Van Dijk, the pace of Salah, and and obviously Darwin Núñez then puts the finishing touch on it, and that was just so typical of Darwin Núñez, because he scores the harder one and misses the easier one. That just sums him up. It's so frustrating really for watching Núñez, because he's got so much quality but can't always put it together. But yeah, the second time again, I've got a little bit of I can defend Villa a little bit, because they're 1-0 down at that point, so they're then trying to get back into the game. They need to push forward, and set pieces are such a big opportunity.
And they had 2 good ones after.
Yeah, and set pieces are such a big opportunity against Liverpool at Anfield, because you don't always get that many opportunities. So yeah, in some ways it was a tale of 5 corners, wasn't it? Because the 2 that put in were brilliant and forced Kelleher into 2 brilliant saves. Onana and Carlos. Yeah, so it was almost one goal conceded from a corner, another one scored, so that would have been 1-1. And then you look at, if you're pointing fingers at Aston McPhee, the set piece coach at this point, then Villa have still scored more than they've conceded from set pieces. So until they start conceding more than they're scoring, he's justified in his position, and he's doing a great job. So the one in the second half was perhaps even more frustrating, I think. But again, it was Carlos's error. Carlos, the header, should just put it either side, left or right of Salah, and there's no issue at all. So yeah, it's just one of them days where I think, and then obviously I watched Match of the Day, and all the focus was on the set pieces. And if you don't watch Villa regular, then you'd think, blimey, what are they doing at set pieces? But they've been doing that for years.
Yeah,
and these are the first team, Liverpool, who have picked them apart.
Yeah, yeah. Like I say, I haven't got a problem with the first one massively. It's when they nearly go 2-0 up from it. And I said to you before we came on, a worry I've got at the moment is when Villa are in attacking positions, I feel like players are quite isolated. A player will pick up the ball and then have 3 or 4 men around them, and not very many Villa players near them. For the second goal, the Carlos look, it is a mistake from Carlos. He should just head the ball out of play, but he's almost on his own as well, like isolated. And I feel like that isolation is taking place when teams are attacking us and when we're in attack. So, feels like what's going on? Why is it happening both ends?
They're a little bit loose at the moment, aren't they? As you know, the distances aren't quite right. They're not as compact as they used to be. They're certainly not as organised as they have been in previous, months and years even. I think the alterations they've had to make, for me, Carlos and for me, Luiz and Kamara were just better than the central midfielders now.
Gregg, my doorbell's gone and we're live. I've got a feeling I've left my key in the door, so my girlfriend can't get back in. So give me 2 seconds, Gregg. If you could just talk to the audience while I go and see who's at the door, that'd be absolutely brilliant. Stay there, Gregg.
Right. Okay. Well, this is very unusual because I feel like I'm holding the room here. But the point while Dan is absent, the point I was trying to make was, I firmly believe that Villa's midfield was stronger when Luiz and Kamara were the 2 central midfielders. Now, I do think Onana and Tielemans have other qualities as well as McGinn. Just to let you know, Dan, I'm just talking about Villa's midfield, so I'm going to carry on.
I can see the panic in your face as
I didn't know what to do. It was so strange.
Horrible. I've done it loads of times.
But I'll continue on the point I was making. But I just think that the alterations Villa have had to change the midfield a little bit. They're missing cash, clearly. And let's not forget, they wanted a defensive-minded right back in Lucero Gatrida, who they just weren't able to get over the line because they couldn't get the money to work and fall in line with the FFP regulations. So yeah, it's just a bit disjointed for Villa at the moment. And David Styles has just talk about golf. This is your
fully expected to walk back into that environment. I really did. I expected you to go, anyone play golf at the weekend? I had a lovely 18 holes at such and such. I'll
tell you what, while we're on the subject, and it's going to cross over with football a little bit, I absolutely am all in favour of those 8 o'clock Saturday kickoffs. Really like them. I think it improves the atmosphere in the stadium. It's annoying for away fans in some respects because they can't get back on trains and stuff like that. But if there are ways to get back in, if you go in the car and stuff, I really liked it. I had a really good Saturday because I could work. I could do the game on the night, but I did so much in the morning. I went to the gym. I had time with my family. I played golf, and then I went to work. It was amazing.
I mean, what I should have done when I disappeared, then I should have just ran the NordVPN advert. Got that done. Yeah. I'll do it now, and then we'll pick up Gregg. But well done for Gregg for padding there. I know it's difficult when guests' internet has struck out when we've been live previously. I've had to do it, and it's not a very nice experience. So Gregg and I will get back into Villa and get back into the Liverpool game. But first, let's hear a bit from NordVPN. 1874 is proudly sponsored by NordVPN, so when you can't watch it, we want to help you. NordVPN is a secure and private service which works on pretty much any device, including your laptop, mobile, and television. So if you want to watch some live content, it allows you to appear like you're in another country. And whilst you're connected, no one else can find out what you're doing, including your internet service provider. Beyond this, the service also has threat protection baked in to protect you from intrusive website ads and malware, which is pretty handy for you. As part of NordVPN support performance for free, this also includes Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. All you've got to do is go to 1874.io/NordVPN and sign up. All the details are also in the description. As always, we're very grateful to anyone that signs up. We know that money is tight, but if you think NordVPN will help you out, it will also help keep the channel running and help us too. Oh, me forgetting that I have to press the button at the end of that once again. No producer today, so I'm having to press the buttons myself, which is always a risk. Gregg, should Villa have had a penalty in that game? I'm going to be honest and give my opinion. I don't think either were a pen. What do you think?
Oh, we always disagree, don't we?
You didn't know what? I really thought you'd say the tug is.
The tug on Torres for me is a penalty. The other two,
Okay.
no. Looked like he dived, I think, for the other one. And Watkins, no.
Free kick to Liverpool, that Watkins one, though. I don't
No.
think there's anything. There's nothing in it. There's nothing.
No. I mean, Konate was just by far the best player on the pitch, wasn't he? He was
Brilliant.
unbelievably, good. Always there, reads the danger so well. Always there to mop up. Just so strong, and aerial dominance as well. Great in both boxes. Just brilliant player, brilliant defender. And incredible that he lost his way at the back end of last season, and he's now back in the team. So yeah, I do think the Torres one is a penalty. Unai Emery thought so as well. I think most of the players thought it was. I'm looking back at the replays. You look at it and you think, okay, it's a little bit soft. It's right on the border, I think, of whether it should be or not. But I do think it was a penalty, that one.
Okay, because the way it came up on the screen at home, sometimes they'll just say, VAR, I've looked at it, then it's not a pen. But it went to you're suddenly starting to see slow-mos of it on the television, which led me into a false sense of security that it was going to get given. I mean, they said on match that I didn't know about in terms of didn't hold for long enough.
Yeah.
I mean, the rules, I do think it's one. Look, people will disagree with me and think it's a penalty, and I can understand both sides. But I think if it's the other way around, potentially Liverpool do get it. But we're saying if it's the other way around and Torres is doing that to someone in the Liverpool penalty area defending, we're saying it's soft. It's not enough.
Yeah, and I just think that's just football, isn't it? You look across, you look at social media over the weekend, and it was, every Villa fan was saying it's a penalty, and every Liverpool fan was saying it was soft. And you flip it around, and the sentiment would have been the opposite. So I think it was. I think it was a penalty. I think Villa were unlucky there. I think Liverpool got a little bit lucky. We can go into a deeper conversation of whether VAR is working or not. But these for me are the decisions that should always just be, everybody should agree. If it's gone to VAR, why doesn't everybody agree with it still?
Yeah, I mean, we never agree, but then we never agree. We look at the Stockley Park and the officials and whatnot, and
you can understand why, can't you?
If you're refereeing a game and on VAR, we never ever agree. We never agree, do we? We always do things different. That's mad. It's happened so many times on this show. Even when we were doing it for the Athletic, I used to be like, yeah, it was a definite penalty, and you'd be like, no, I disagree with you. It's not a penalty. We're not doing it for effect because we haven't discussed it before we've come on. Just for whatever reason, me and you can never agree. That's
one thing that I wanted to ask you, actually. Sorry to go off track, but having listened to TalkSport for quite a lot over my, when I'm driving and stuff, is there a direction for people for presenters to disagree on things?
I can only talk about how I for my TalkSport 2 show, so I haven't done much on TalkSport other than coming on and giving my opinion about the Premier League and giving my opinion about Villa. I've done the YouTube stuff that was for main TalkSport. So I basically turn up, and half the time I don't even know what we're going to be talking about until I get there. So I tend to talk about things on the fly. I prefer that whoever I'm working for. I don't like too much prep. I like to just come on and talk because I trust myself in terms of just being able to remember things that are football related and just having that kind of general knowledge in my head of football. But everyone works differently. Like for Sky, for example, it's a bit more prepped because we get in at 6 a.m. and then it shows at 9. So we've got 3 hours prep where we're all talking together about what we think about certain things. But you're never told to disagree. Just sometimes it might be, oh, well, you think this and you think that. So actually that's going to make for good TV. I wouldn't say it's ever planned. Probably YouTube stuff is, I would say, maybe more planned. But TalkSport, main TalkSport, like Goldstein and Bent, for example, I can imagine that there's meetings. And
that's what I always thought with Adrian Durham and he's
but they're strong. Those kind of people are strong with their opinions, aren't they? I've always tried to, and you're probably the same as me, where we try and be a bit more balanced and look at things in a bit more of a nuanced way, if that makes sense, without having to go at anyone else, because I work for those companies.
No, it was just interesting, because I mean, my journalistic background, I always try and write things fair and accurately and balanced, but that's just something that's always in my head. But then often when you write a comment piece, if you've got a strong opinion on something, my editors have always very much encouraged me to, if you've got an opinion on something, go for it, don't hold back and try and balance it out. If you want to say that there's, you want to talk about something, you've got to go in 100% on it.
Yeah, we'll say just on the subject of TalkSport, Darren Bent, what a lovely guy. I don't know whether you ever met him much when he was at Villa, Greg, but he is everywhere, because I'm doing my show at the same time as him on TalkSport too. But I think my show starts an hour before his. Always comes in, always has a chat about football, talks about Villa with me. Just a really, really lovely guy. And sometimes for me that stuff is like kind of pinch yourself really. It's like I'm talking to someone that I play for Villa and think was brilliant, really great goal scorer, 100 club of the Premier League, and he's coming in every week to have a chat with me about football. He is just like, there's so many people actually that are really, really nice, like people, footballers, ex-pros and stuff might get a bad rap in certain quarters. I've very rarely in that industry met someone that I haven't liked and haven't just thought, oh, he's just a normal guy, and you're probably the same, I imagine. We've really gone off on a tangent here, but it shows how I want to talk about Villa.
People soften, but when they start working in the media, players, ex-players, they just soften up a little bit because, first of all, they want to be liked when they're in the public spotlight, and talking. It's a bit different when you're in a team playing because you're doing everything for your team, but when you're in the media, when you're a pundit, it's just a bit different. But yeah, Darren Bent was always good. I did quite a few interviews with him. It was just his sort of time was just on the crossover as I was sort of coming into Villa and started writing about Villa. The one thing that used to annoy me about him though is whenever he did an interview, he speaks so fast. And like so when you're transcribing an interview, because basically what you do the interview, and then you have to transcribe everything, and then you write your article.
I've done some transcribing for you once. It was painful.
Painful, yeah. It's one of the worst parts of the job. But he used to speak so fast, and it was just like, bang, stop, record, pause, and so it just take forever to write it up. But no, good guy.
Yeah, great question from David Starrs. This really is the David Starrs show here. Who from the current squad will be in the media in the future? And then he's answered his own question by saying John McGinn. Afterwards, John MGinn's a banker.
I think, I mean, in terms of polished, answers, I think Tyrone Mings will be the one. I could see him having a future. Perhaps working for someone like the PFA as well. I think he could be good in that role. Clear leader, speaks very eloquently, has a opinion as well. He'd be good. McGinn is just a natural, down to earth, really good guy. Who's funny as well, which always helps. He's quite witty. He's good at one-liners. Got an opinion. Isn't afraid to share stuff as well. So he'd be decent. Anyone else? I think those two stand out. I mean, Amadou Onana's quite a good talker as well. But so I think he whether he'd want to do that, whether any of them would want to do it, I don't know. But I think Mings and McGinn are two that stand out. The longest serving two at the club.
Yeah, I could certainly see McGinn on something like Monday Night Football, like relatively soon, like coming in. Like they have current players every now and again, don't they? On Monday Night Football, Neville doesn't do every single one now. I could certainly see McGinn could do that now. I think if
he's good. He's fun. He's good.
He can do that.
He's good. He's good fun. I'm not sure how good he would be at like tactically breaking down something and analysing that, because I've never really, every interview I've done with him, I've always wanted to know more about him and just how Villa are doing in general, but I've never really gone into detail with him tactically. So I just don't know how good he would be at that, purely because I haven't had those conversations with him. I mean, Grealish was the obvious one when he was at the club. He was brilliant at like breaking down play, and he was funny and good at, and just answered every question so well. So he was another obvious one.
There's loads of ex-Villa in the media. You can guarantee every time I'm there, I'll see someone who used to play for Villa, whether it be Andy Townsend, Gabby,
Collymore, Merson, Stephen Warnock. There's loads, and the Shay Given. There's loads that have Lee Hendry. Yeah.
I saw him the other week across the escalator. I nearly shouted him from the station, but I wasn't 100% sure it was him. And then I messaged him, and it was him. So I wish I'd shouted him from across the escalator. I'm doing something with Day on Dublin in a few weeks. Well. Ashby de la Zeus are doing a live. I've said that completely wrong. Doing a live like carling evening with Dion again in a few weeks, which I'm good. Yeah. But anyway, we've gone off on a tangent there. I did say that the title kind of says it's time to reset for Villa, but all is not lost. I want to try and end on a positive, Greg, because it's very negative out there at the moment. You're right in saying it's uncharted territory. I think it's almost a negative because we don't know what to do. Because one, it's unexpected. Two, we've never been through it before under Emery. Unai Emery is under zero pressure whatsoever. Although actually I say he's not under pressure, by the way. But I was speaking to Rollo the other night, and he did his podcast straight after. And he said he was getting abuse for not being off certain people for not questioning Emery and not saying Emery out, which is
Emery out.
It's absolutely ridiculous.
What on earth?
Yeah, he sent me some of the stuff. People must be messing around. They must be trolling.
I mean, I genuinely can't believe that's true. I can't believe any Villa fan in the world would even consider Emery out at this point. Jesus Christ.
I did say a comment that said something along the lines of he's taken us as far as he can. Time for someone else.
Oh God, look, we got to move on because this is Swede in my head. This is ridiculous.
He said Villa can now get any manager in Europe. Can they? They've already got the best manager that they could possibly have. Yeah, just absolutely ridiculous. But I think I can get the league table up here if Bates' technology is working properly. It's limping through. Is it working? He assured us, didn't he, Greg? No.
I've got the Premier League.
Oh, my word.
But no, there's no one in the table. There we go. Yeah,
there it is. So we've eventually loaded up Adam's, I don't even know what an old computer would be called nowadays, but we put the tape in and it's loaded. The cassette's loaded on Adam's computer now. We've got the league table here, Greg. You look at it. We are a point off third. So to be in a bad run, be in the top 8 of the Champions League in that time, be a point off third. If you're going to have a bad run, it's probably been a good time to have one, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean the table, like there's two ways to look at it, isn't it? Ninth doesn't look great for Villa because of where they finished last season. But look at the points; they're a point behind third. But then also look at the top 4. It's very much like back to the old days of what you expect, isn't it? A little bit, which is a shame. But and who we can't see in there is Manchester United, and they're just quietly having a bit of a resurgence, aren't they? And you never quite know what's going to happen with them with the new manager coming in as well. So there are a lot of teams this year that are up there. I don't see Forest sustaining that.
What about Brighton?
Yeah, I'm really impressed with Brighton. I like them. I think they're a big threat to Villa this year and Newcastle as well. I said at the start of the season I thought Chelsea were going to be Villa's biggest threat for the top 4, but if Villa don't get in the top 4, you definitely want to get in the top 6, don't they? Because they don't want to lose, this European football now that they've got it. And as lovely as the Champions League is, it wouldn't be too much of a downgrade next year to go into the Europa League, I don't think. Given the fact that Emery's won that plenty of times before, and going and winning that perhaps, or going really deep in that competition would still be fun. And for the people that go and travel as well, who have really started to enjoy the away days, the away European days, you just want those to continue and make it just a thing that goes on and on and on.
Yeah. Look, I'd rather we didn't have a bad run, of course, but I do think it's come at a semi-decent time. If a bad run can come at a decent time, we're still in the pack. I think the biggest thing for me is that ultimately, I think the manager and the players will turn it round. I think they're too good not to. I think we're capable of going on a run of. You've shown that previously. Villa are capable of going on big runs of being unbeaten. They've done that in both seasons. Emery's been at the helm, so I would fully expect at some point in the season that will happen again. Last season it happened quite early on, didn't it? They went on a big run from say October into Christmas without losing a game. So maybe they're going to do it this time. It's going to come a bit later. But I fully expect that Villa are capable of doing that. And when they do, and they do pick up back-to-backs again, we'll be more around where we would expect us to be. Other teams are going to lose games.
Yeah, I agree. I suppose the more concerning issue is it 1 win in 6 or 1 win in 5 in the Premier League?
It might be 6. Some smart Alec in the comments will tell us. People always know in the chat what's going down, don't they? Shows our level of preparation.
It's a bit slack, isn't it? I think it's 1 win in 6. So that's just a bit of a concern at the moment. Villa need to get back out of that and start winning games again and winning a couple on the bounce, because all of a sudden their position looks a lot different then.
I think Villa, after the international break, beat Palace, do what I said. They just need to grind out some kind of win. And being at home to a winnable game at home, Palace are struggling. I know they beat us in the cup the other week, but Villa will have their first choice 11 out. It'll be a different game. They're beatable on a game back, and then I think you take some confidence from that. You've got a big European night where the atmosphere will be up. You beat Juventus as well, which Villa are more than capable of doing. And then I think your mood feels a lot better after that. We've just had a bad run. We're in the midst of a bad run. I think luckily defeats have come in multiple competitions, so it's not like we've lost 4 in a row in the league here. The defeats have come in multiple competitions. So that's a good thing in my opinion. They're still well set in the Champions League. They're still well set in the Premier League as well in terms of we want to be qualified for Champions League again. Points wise, you're not looking at we've got to chase this team, we've got to chase that team. We are in that race on the point, not on the points I'd expect us to be. We're not cut adrift like it's not. We're on the same kind of points as people that are in the top 4. So I don't think all is lost. I think it's just a bad run. It's not been enjoyable. We didn't expect it. We've not seen it before. We're there, but it can change really quickly, Greg.
That's it, and I'll pretty much echo that. I think Villa are strong enough to get through it. The players are good enough, and the manager's definitely experienced enough to pull them through.
Right, let's go then, Greg. Thank you ever so much for joining me, and thanks to those that have joined us in the chat as well. Loads of you today, 586 watching at the moment. To the one per Twitch that watches, I don't know whether it's the same person every week on Twitch. I barely know what Twitch is myself, but we go out on Twitch and one person's watching it. So that lonely person on Twitch, whoever you are, thank you very much for watching live. The show will, of course, be out on all audio platforms when I harass Adam or Lee to get it uploaded. So that'll be up as soon as possible. And if you've listened to us on there, thank you as well. Please listen to all the adverts all the way through. Although it's a bit too late for me to be saying that now, but leave us a review if you can, and give us 5 stars if you're feeling very kind as well. Like and subscribe with your post notifications on YouTube. We'll get some content out this week. I know it's an international break, but in some ways I manage to be more prolific with content when there's an international break. I think I'll probably do something with Jacob in the next couple of days. So watch out for that. Have a good rest of your Monday, and as always, we'll end with